Hello and welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Neokai, with the wonderful Paladin, of course. If you're watching here on the Neokai channel, make sure to go and check out Paladin and vice versa. We're going to be doing a series throughout the entirety of this year. We've got lots of plans, lots of ideas. We're going to start fresh into the new competitive season with a bit of a different idea here. We like to argue, negotiate in terms of our points and where we feel on a lot of players and a lot of teams, but we thought we'd put our kind of money where our mouth is, so to say, and do it here on air. So throughout the entirety of this year, for every big event that comes through, we're going to be jumping on, doing a comparison, doing all the rest, and making a little bit of a tally, a leaderboard throughout the year. And at the end of the year, there'll be one big punishment, which we'll probably decide later down the line, but I'm sure we can take a lot of recommendations from you guys as well.
Yeah, I mean, we got to kickstart it off with the first S-tier LAN of the season with the Blast pick'ems. Well, we basically looking through the main pick'ems on the Blast channel. We'll go through the the fantasy as well, and then after that, we'll reconvene. We'll debate our points. We'll talk about it. And for first of all, we'll have in the week to week, we'll have still some punishments involved. And for the first one, we're thinking just a teaspoon of Tabasco for the loser. And I'm not necessarily sure how Neil will be able to deal with the spice. I probably will, but, I'm not going to be having to actually drink the hot sauce because, I won't lose. But
okay,
that's
all right.
Neither here nor there.
I just remind you, I'm born and raised in Africa. I can handle my spice. We, of course, are going to, in a second, just dip away and we're going to talk through our own points. So if you're watching here on my channel, make sure to go check out Paladin's video as well before we reconvene. And vice versa, you're watching Paladin's channel, come and check out mine as well. We have a little bit more detail into why we're going into our picks and what we're doing. Then we'll reconvene and we'll kind of debate as to whose idea is better and why. But there won't be an answer until you see next episode when we'll come back with the results. So for now, sit tight, enjoy our picks, and we'll see you all in just a moment. Right, so now we've done the intro. We've had our, our niceties. Now we get into kind of the real details. We're going to look through, starting with kind of the pick'ems, see kind of where I'm thinking here, and then we're going to head on over to the fantasy after. We're going to stick with Blast for both of these, just to make it a little bit more funky. I think Blast's pick'ems is considerably different to kind of HLTV or Ego, which I've used in the past. So we're going to take a look at how things start here. We're going to start over with Group A. This one for me feels considerably easier than most of the others. I think it goes without saying Vitality will be there, and I think again it also goes without saying that Astralis will be there. I think when it comes down to me, when you look at it, and actually you can see the bracket here as well, Vitality should be OG every day of the week. OG is a team that I think is probably one of the lowest rated teams here. Especially with how new they are as well. I think Heavy God's very good. Might take me a little bit of a while to adjust to kind of that upper echelon. Astralis, I think they're better than Team Falcons right now. Falcons team it's okay. And I think on the Zonic, anything can happen. But that Astralis team is actually seriously scary now. Especially, that Stabby, quote unquote, has joined the team. I think there's a lot to like. I think Vitality will end up winning all the way through or kind of going through to kind of through the upper bracket. But I think no matter who Astralis face off again, which realistically probably should be Falcons again, I think Astralis beat them. So all day, I'm going to go with that. Over towards Group B, more of the same here. I think FaZe, well, I shadowed out, should go through no problems. Now they got Frozen too. It's only up and up for this team. And I think Liquid will take it. This Liquid team look sick, man. If you look at the bracket, FaZe should beat Gamer Legion. I don't mind Gamer Legion. I think they're an okay team. But FaZe are better than them. Then in the lower bracket, maybe Gamer Legion make a little bit of a run here. But through that lower bracket, but I don't think they're better than FaZe or Liquid. That new Liquid rebuild is seriously sick. This FaZe team is looking really good as well. It's unfortunate. I think if Spirit had Donk and Magix, there's a chance we could have a conversation to be had, but they don't, right? Don't have Donk, they don't have Magix. You've got Hallie, the coach, playing. There's no chance with for Spirit. I can't see a world in which they pick up a win. I think they probably will finish bottom of the group. If they hadn't, though, I actually might have snuck in Spirit over Team Liquid. As audacious as that is, I might have actually done it because I genuinely think that, everyone likes to, rave about him, but I think actually Don could have pulled off a bit of a masterclass here. I think he could have put a lot of pressure on these tier 1 teams, but we'll never see because visa issues means he's not going to be there. No Donk, no care, basically, to be perfectly honest. Now, heading over towards Group C, I'm going to start off with G2. Again, it's a pretty simple one. I think even though Nexa is in this team and they've looked a little rough at Nexa, I think overall they shouldn't have too much of a problem. NIP are a bit of a rough team. Na'Vi aren't terrible, and Complexity, I think, are pretty good. Now, the big actually decision for me comes between Na'Vi and Complexity. Now, the way I'm going about this, I know that Paladin's going to go complexity. So I might go Na'Vi to see if I can sneak an extra point here, because who cares about tying if we end up going very similar picks, right? So I'm going to go Na'Vi here over complexity. Even though I think complexity maybe are a slightly better team, I'm going to go Na'Vi. And finally, over towards Group D. This one a little bit tougher as well. It's a little bit harder. I don't think Heroic will do too much, to be perfectly honest. I think Big are actually a bit of a sleeper, but I think VP are probably the team I'm going to keep an eye on most, and Cloud9 too as well. We'll get into more of the details a little bit later on, and we might actually disagree on a few of these too, so I don't think it's the worst in the world. And then, from here, the teams that I think will advance through, I think it's going to be Vitality, and I think it's going to be FaZe. And it's really sad. It's so obvious, so basic, but there's a reason these two sides are head and shoulders above everybody else, and we'll come into kind of more of these details a little bit later on when we join back up with Paladin. Let's quickly go and dive on over to the fantasy. Now, the fantasy is pretty cool, right? You pick players from categories, which I think is actually kind of sick. Zaiwu goes about, a shadow of that has to be picked in. Then you head on over to the second group. Now, you've got Shiro playing for Spirit, but unfortunately, Spirit going to have a rough team. So I'm not going to go for them. I actually think this is not a bad pickup in terms of Jame. It's someone who I actually think could be okay. But overall, basically, in my mind, I'm leaning to two players here. I'm leaning to Frozen or Mezzi. I know it sounds a little bit rogue. I kind of want to support my boy Mezzi. But I also think this team's pretty sick. And so far, they're unbeaten with Mezzi. Then I also could get Flames as well. This is the tricky part. Now you got to start thinking other groups. I might come back to this group and go into group or the third tier. Now, Fame's not a bad pickup. Twists would be a sick pickup, and I might actually go Twists here. That feels like a pretty solid one. Gabby and Stallions also pretty good too. But I think Twist is the pick there. He looks head and shoulders above most. Heading over in towards group 4. No, I don't really want Stare. Carrigan's not a bad pickup. I don't really know if that's the play here. Immo, I'm not going to go with. Apex is not a terrible pickup here either. But I think actually... is Cadian the vibe here? Cadian is not a bad pickup there by any means. I'm going to just double check into group 4 before we lock things in. Okay. I think in this one... this one's tougher. I might actually go Boomich here. Boomich is not a terrible pickup. Boomich plays super aggressive. I like Boomich plays. Very aggro player. I don't think he's too bad of an option here. And that leaves me now locking in the last. And now I feel like I need a little bit of power coming through. Do I then go for Flames or Frozen? I think I'm going to have to go between these two. I'm going to go with Frozen as my lurker. And then we'll finish things off in towards Group B. Oh, Group 4, I guess. Well, I'm saying B. Group 4 over here. And Immo wouldn't actually be a terrible shout here by any means. I'm tempted to go... see, this is where things get a little tougher. Because do I want to play the long game here? Because I could go Apex here, but then actually go... I could actually go here and then go... so you only pick 2. Okay, cool. We're going to go Frozen then. I think I'm going to go Frozen here. Frozen, Twists... And then Captain Multiplier. I don't really know how the multiplier works. Pick a Captain. Zaiwu. Oh, okay. How well they play is how... okay, that's pretty cool. Do I want to then risk it and go Twists for the Captain Multiplier? Kind of tempted. But then Zaiwu is the go. So... Ooh. I might play it safe here. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to be boring. I'm going to lock in. That's who we're going to go with. So that's the predictions we're going with. FaZe and Vitality. It's kind of boring, but it has to be done. And that is a team. Now we're going to go jump back over with Paladin. I'm going to debate a little bit. See you in a second.
So we're back, and we finally picked out our players and our teams that are going to be advancing. And, I mean, if you've watched both the videos on both the channels, you'll know what we've actually picked and our reasoning and whatnot. But we want to debate about it a little bit, and I'll basically go through mine. Neo and I will go back and forth, and we'll kind of break it down for there. We'll start with Group A. I think it's pretty safe to say Vitality will be the team to go through there. The second one felt a little bit here and there, and I decided on the Falcons. I don't know about you, Neo, but I kind of believe in Snappy.
Fair. I didn't. I went Astralis. I didn't believe in Snappy. Not that I don't believe in Snappy. I didn't believe in Falcons just yet. I think for me, it was like Falcons had this grand idea, right, of being this like super team, being, you know, like the kind of the Real Madrid of CS or whatever, the Man City of CS, however people want to put it. But yeah, like it didn't come to fruition. They like got half the players they wanted. So that's for me where I'm maybe on a little bit kind of a little bit tentative about Falcons, where for me on the other side, Australia seem like a bit of a super team now. Now they got the kind of this Danish, you know, everyone's stabby, whatever. They're still cracked players. They may be snakes, but they're still cracked, right? So I back them a little bit. The only thing I worry about to a degree is I haven't seen Boros play in like a year, right? And then it's what can they do? But I was saying on my video, I actually do think that Zonic can pull this team together quite well. So it then was in my mind of like, it was very close between Astralis and Falcons, but I went Astralis for this one. So why Falcons over Astralis for you?
So my main thing is that I don't think Blameoff is a good enough caller to make Stown and Yabby look like they did on Heroic.
Yeah.
So I don't actually believe in those two players. I mean, I think they have a lot of stock in them right now, and they paid a lot of money to join that team, but I just don't believe it's ready yet, or if it's ever going to be ready. Whereas I look at the Falcons, and they have the ends core. Like, you look at Snappy, Senpius, and Madden, I think they all understand their roles. And then Magus is probably the most stable player out of all of them, where I don't have to worry about him on any team. Even when he joined Vitality for the first time, he looked very comfortable in his role. So I was like, 4 out of the 5 players look good here. I have heavy worries about Boros, but I still think that they might be a little bit more of a put-together team. And I think they've been working harder than Astralis have. And so that's why I think that Falcons are going to take it over the top. I do really like that Zonic is going to be playing against Astralis, so that's going to be really fun.
True. At least the storylines are there, right? The only thing that I worry about, I think Magic is an upgrade on D here, like every day of the week, but I think Boris is a downgrade on Nerds. So I think maybe in terms of the firepower department, lacking, you know, Senpius is incredibly good, so I think actually he's probably somebody who can go toe-to-toe with Device, but I think maybe in terms of the rifling core, I have a little bit more of a maybe a little bit more of an idea that somebody could pop off over towards Astralis. But I think you're right. What can Blameoff do in terms of the calling? Who knows? We'll head over towards Group B. This one for me, again, it felt a little easier, but we'll see. You know, I thought Group A was going to be similar, so we'll see. I went FaZe, fair enough. I think that's kind of like, I think we're both probably same on that side. And then I went Liquid as my second team through. I'm assuming you were the same?
Yeah. We did the same thing here. I just think that FaZe are by and large the second best team in the world. Yep. Sure, they got blown up by Vitality, but they didn't have any sort of competition in the second half of the year. And of course, Liquid looked a little shaky in the open qualifiers that I watched of them and the closed qualifiers and all that. But the long short of it is they got through it, and they still have a solid enough foundation to go above and beyond whatever Spirit is going to show with Hallie, who I don't think is a competent player by any means. And a Gamer Legion roster, and a Gamer Legion roster that is pretty mediocre, to put it lightly. So I think Liquid, even if we're not going to see them at 100%, they still should get the job done. Yeah,
and when you look at it, I did say, however, if Spirit were here, I'd be tempted to go Spirit over Liquid. I would actually be tempted for that. But, you know, I think with Hallie playing, they haven't got a chance. And then fucking Baz. The fuck is Baz? Baz sounds like every guy down the pub in England. So yeah, no chance.
Pretty sure we met one when I was down
yeah. Many a Baz were there. So and also Baz has got like a less than a 1 rating. So I literally no idea who this guy is by any means. Oh, Spirit Academy player. If you're an Academy player and you've got a negative rating, it's not a good sign, especially when you're coming from Spirit. So I don't think they got a chance. Unfortunately for them, I don't mind Gamer Legion, but I just don't think they're comparable in my opinion. I think they're better than this Spirit team, but I don't think they're comparable to Liquid or FaZe. However, saying that, part of me was tempted to pick Gamer Legion because occasionally they just make these weird playoff runs where they like just get in. And if Liquid are looking a little shaky, then there's a world, but I think all the pieces of Liquid compared to all the pieces of Gamer Legion, it should be a no contest. But should here is the operative word.
Yeah, I could see a world. They showed signs of it even when they're at Atlanta, they had Andu playing with them. The bones of the team is still all right, but yeah, that's the main thing. And when you compare them toe to toe with the FaZe or Liquid, I just can't see where I would like edge out a player on a role towards them instead of the other teams. You know, that's my main issue. Yeah, look, man, I love Snacks. I love what he's done to the scene.
Yeah.
But man, oh man, I just don't think he's it for this team or just the team in general. I just don't think it's it.
Yeah.
But I'll move over to the Group C finalists. I think this one might be we might differ here. I'm actually very curious to see where you go here. I took G2 as one of the main finalists because look, sure, Nexa kind of disappointed at the World Finals. Sure, it's not the greatest move. I would have liked JKS on this team, but the baseline level of the squad is just too good. Like Nico, Monacy, Hunter, you can't go wrong with that trio. And no matter what the case is, yeah, they should be able to get the job done. My second team that I picked was Na'Vi. I didn't go with Complexity because I think, look, I love Complexity. I love my NA boys. But the fact of the matter is, I think Na'Vi have come together as a more well-rounded squad than they were with Simple. Wonderful has been steadily improving. He had a 2-point-something rating today in the open qualifier or the close qualifiers. And I think Ima is slowly starting to get integrated. I'm not completely sold on him, but I think he's at that 80 to 90%, and that's all they really need. Bit's a stud. Alexi B's calling great. That's why I'm just going to go with Na'Vi, and I might be out of left field. I think you were thinking I would go with Complexity there, but I went with Na'Vi.
Yeah, so I said, Paladin's probably going to go Complexity here. So if we're going to have very similar picks, I'm going to try and change it up and get a point on top of him by going Na'Vi. But I guess we both kind of have a similar thought process. I went Na'Vi basically to spite you in a way, but you've deuced me, so I got to give you a lot of credit here. But no, I do think you're right. I think G2, that goes without saying, they're gonna have an absolute whale of a time in this group. They're gonna batter Nip, no problems, or they should batter Nip. I think if it was a best of one, I'd be a little bit worried, but I think because it's best of threes, I don't really have any sort of worry here. And then Na'Vi over Complexity, I think that game actually will be quite close, but I think you're right. I do actually really like the way this Na'Vi team's come together. I mean, I've always liked Wonderful, even back from, I remember, I say this every time I talk about Wonderful, but I casted him when he played on a team called Trasco in the Giraffe Masters League against Copenhagen Flames on Ancient. You can go and look it up. I was there. I'm pretty sure I was solo casting it. It was brutal. And it was Copenhagen Flames at the time had played Ancient when it was just released. It'd been out for like a month and a half. Copenhagen Flames within the last month had played it like 29 times and won 27 of them. They were like the best team in the world on Ancient. And then you go in against Trasco, who played like 5 times or whatever. Anyway, Wonderful dropped 29 kills in the first half, and I was like, yeah, I'm sorted. This is the kid. This is the answer. Absolutely massacred them on CT side, and then they closed it out pretty comfortably in that second half as well. So that's when I've been sorted. I've been settled on this guy from kind of get go. But yeah, I really actually like the way this Na'Vi team's coming together. I may be a little bit of an Alexi B hater, because I still don't think he's proved his worth since Ents. However, I think I rate them higher than Complexity. I also think as well, this is something that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, but I do wonder whether Complexity feel any sort of pressure in a sense. I know Jason Lake's backed them, but it seems like it's Jason Lake backing them, not the org backing them, right? It's all kind of the conversations to be had here. Like, surely in a weird way, that must be a bit of an uncomfortable setting, maybe a little bit nerving in the sense that, obviously they want to win every tournament, but maybe a little bit more pressure to actually perform now that they've got kind of this maybe lingering above them a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely have more eyeballs now. People are taking them more seriously. I do think that as far as the pressure is concerned, they had a lot of their players get extensions on their contracts, which is really nice. And I think that gives them a huge boost of confidence. They didn't extend Halser's contract, as far as I'm aware.
But was he already on a longer one, though? He might have already been on a longer one, potentially, or no?
That's a possibility. But to me, the way I read it was, if Halser isn't being extended, then he's the player with the most pressure on the team. Okay. And I do think in terms of the most volatile role on that team, it is the opping role.
I'd agree.
So, and it's probably the easiest to replace if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So, to me, I feel as though Jason Lake has handled it pretty well.
Yeah.
And sure, if the org is going to go towards a different investing group and they're going to basically leave or disintegrate from Game Square, I think if you have Jason Lake's trust, I think that's all you really need. And I think Complexity has a lot in their camp. If you have Jason Lake, I think you're taken care of. I think as far as I'm concerned, that's the kind of confirmation they need. Let's get into a Group D, though. I think this is going to be an interesting one as well, because I want to know what your picks are here.
So I started off by saying I think Cloud9 will take the group. I actually really like this Cloud9 team. I said it a little bit kind of further on, but I really like what Boomich is actually doing to this team. They're playing this slightly more, well, not even slightly, considerably more quicker style of play, because Boomich is a nutcase in terms of the way he plays.
Yeah,
as an IGL, the level of aggression, it's like, like 2016 Stewie. Like, it's actually crazy how aggressive he is for a caller. Of course, I guess back then Stewie was like secondary. But it's actually insane. I actually really like this team on paper. I just think they haven't meshed. I think the big talking point still remains whether Axel can perform at the level he can. It feels like he just hasn't found that confidence at all in CS2. I'm hoping a longish kind of Christmas break, a bit of time away, a pretty poor 2023. I'm hoping now maybe Mana Shiro actually might help this team quite a lot in terms of long term, in the sense that I think, having such a superstar like Shiro, it's trying to live up to his standards. And I think obviously we've already seen at the likes of the RMR for Blast when, Shiro was crying, so what it means to him. Living up to a player like that can be impossible because of how good they are. So I think in a way, I'm hoping that this team, which are all a similar level now, can find a little bit of form. And then for my second pick, I don't know if this one was Rogue, but I went for Virtus Pro. I think VP is the team I'm going to go for. I was very, very tempted to go for Big just because I really I considerably like Crimbo's individual, but I actually like what Process has done since coming towards this team. I've casted them a lot, but I really like VP, man. I think VP just, like, everybody continues to sleep on them and they continue to play so well. It was even a bit of a sleeper thing to me. They're the 5th ranked team in the world. They, credit where credit's due. They've been grinding out performances. They've been putting up numbers. I still have almighty faith in our Lord and Savior James. So I went for the CIS route here, the Russian route, and went for the 2 CIS teams.
So I think we're only going to have a difference of 1 point to split us for this entire pick, because I've gone VP and C9 as well.
There we go.
I think VP are going to be the ones that top the group, just because I from what I saw from them at Atlanta, it was just incredible. I mean, they've changed up how they're actually calling in the game. James has found this new element where he's calling a little bit quicker occasionally, and it's completely throwing teams for a loop, where he's executing at a minute on the clock, minute 15 on the clock, and it makes them look dangerous. Flit's borderline on superstar status for me. I really like what he showed, and James figured out opping, which I know very few players have figured it out so far. And for that reason, I think that is going to be the edge of why they beat C9, is having a player like James on their team. Okay. I still think C9 is the other team to go through, just because their baseline is very good. And yeah, Boomich is an absolute nutcase, but he's brought this team together to an actual identity. This team looks like a team now, where you looked at the previous quote-unquote super team when they had Shiro, and you couldn't tell how they were calling. You didn't know what they were trying to call. Electronic wasn't a good IGL. Neither was Hobbit. And even though Boomich sells in terms of opening deaths, still finding opening kills, still setting up a lot of players for success. And I think it's only a matter of time before Axel gets comfortable and back into action, because I think the mechanics are just too good not to fall off, right? So there's an expectation for me there. I think the only reason why I didn't put Heroic through is I think they just need significant time to get Kicksan vetted into that team.
Kicksan's my goat, though. I trust Kicksan. Yeah. The guy is actually he's the future, I swear. I have faith in him.
To be honest with you, I was hoping Kicksan would stay on Apex, because I liked Kicksan, Apex, Kicksan, Knock, and who am I thinking of? Jacob. That trio was absolutely fantastic, and I hope he can work his magic on Heroic, but I think he's gonna need a lot of time.
I agree. I
believe in him. But Tesis and Shush look a little to me in this new roster, having to speak English. I don't rate Nikodas. I think that he's very streaky, and I still am not impressed by what he showed here. And I think that Nertz is in for a rude awakening now that he's not playing under Snappy.
It's going to be tough.
He's playing under an IGL that is not going to call every little bit of like how to play the game anymore. You're going to have to try to figure that out on your own.
Yeah, and the lack of micromanaging is going to be quite tough. Also, Kicksan's quite an aggro rifler. So the one thing I worried about is, obviously we saw it a little bit on Apex, but I wonder whether there's going to be issues with Kicksan, merging into Nertz's space, right? Nertz is one of those players, you want to give him all the space in the world, right? He is the guy, right? He's someone who can close around, he can open around, he can do it all, right? He is the most proficient rifler on this team without a shadow of a doubt. You need to allow him to just be super comfortable, have all the space in the world. But Kicksan's actually quite an aggro rifler himself when he wants to be. I've seen it done quite a few times on Apex, so I do wonder how they figured that out, and also how much time they've had to work with. Heroic was so unstable at the end of the year with kind of playing with like 7 different teams. So I do wonder what the kind of the plans looking forward for them. How much time? Obviously they've been at boot camp. They've had quite a lot of time to work on it, but still, it's just what we can get out of the players that they've got. I think they feel like a tier 1.5 team and not a tier 1 team.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the heroic of old is far from this, right? It's
Yes,
it's not anything like this roster. And if they're ever going to be considered as a tier 1 roster, in my eyes, it's going to take another couple of playoff runs, at least qualify for the spring finals at the very least. But we'll see. We'll see how they shake up. The teams advancing to the spring finals, I thought the wording for this was a little odd. I put
6
through
teams.
Liquid and Complexity.
The 6 teams should go through. I don't really understand why on Blast they picked 2. I don't know. Does it just mean the top 2 teams? Like, I don't really get it.
They have like a little play-in stage that if you fail in the actual gauntlet, you go to that final single elim.
Yeah.
Which is basically like the second and third place teams to go there. And so that's what I was thinking they considered as playoffs. So I said Liquid is not going to win their group. Complexity is not going to win their group. But they'll go through the gauntlet and they'll win there.
Is that what it means?
I think we can void this, to be honest with you, if depending on what happens after. I'm okay with that if you are, because in all obviousness is if we did this normally, I would put Vitality and FaZe there in a heartbeat.
That's what I did, yeah. So I put Vitality and FaZe there thinking, well, they're the 2 best teams. But then now you come to think of it. So if I'm going off my picks, right? So the finalists, the winners of each group, I go Vitality win the group, FaZe win the group, G2 win the group, and Cloud9 win the group, right? That's what I said as who I think will take it. So then technically I've got to pick 2 more after that. I think that's probably the way you're meant to do it. So I think I'll do it like that. So of the like kind of the best of the rest type vibe. So then I'll quickly just change it now. If I'm doing best of the rest, if I think Astral's got a decent shout, Liquid have got a decent shout, so Na'Vi as well. I think I'll probably here go Astralis and Na'Vi. I think is going to lock it in alongside Vitality, G2, FaZe, and Cloud9. So that's what I'm going to lock in that sense. And I'm assuming that's what it means, but it's not worded very well.
We'll see what happens after the event is over and we take a look at it, and we'll probably decide before we go live.
We'll choose to void, whether we want to or not. We can get into the fantasy, why not? Into the players. So I was thinking the way we do this is go row by row rather than going team by team. So I'll start row 1. This one felt a bit an easy one. I went Zywoo.
Oh, you went Zywoo. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think Zywoo is the obvious pick.
Yeah.
I decided to go Rops instead.
Okay, all right.
Because I think that there is a world where Zywoo has a bit of an off game.
Okay.
And granted, I think he has an easy group.
Yeah, that's what I was going with.
But I also think that FaZe and Rops has a pretty easy group as well. I think they'll farm Gamer Legion, and I think that they're the better team than Liquid right now. And I think that no matter what the situation is, Rops is such a stats farmer that he's just gonna get the numbers, right?
It's
like
true.
I feel like no matter what, he's gonna get the numbers, and that's why my mind gravitated towards Rops first.
Yeah.
But I don't even know why I didn't even register to put Zywoo in. I think that he might have a fall off, or not just a drop off, a slight drop off in comparison to Rops. See,
I'm now looking at my team and realize that I definitely went through this too quickly because we'll come to it in a little bit.
I did too. Don't worry.
Yeah. I'm 100% gonna edit as we speak, but I'll explain why. But not that. I'm sticking with Zywoo all day. I'm sticking with my first 3. I'll say that.
Go for it. Okay.
So in row 2, I went Frozen here. I really want to see Frozen do well. I also think on the other side as well, similar kind of point you're talking about, I think for the most part, this group is just so easy for them. I think they should batter Gamer Legion. If they were to play Spirit, they would. But if they were to drop into lower brackets somehow, they would batter them, I think, as well. And I think even if they came against Liquid, I think they'd actually still beat them quite handily. And obviously with Frozen playing a lot of those lurking roles, I think it's actually a good opportunity for him to put up some numbers. And I think obviously coming in towards this team, they want to get him comfortable. So I went Frozen. I was tempted by going towards the likes of either a Flames or a Mezzi, and I was actually leaning in favor of Flames over Frozen, but I just went Frozen in the sense that I want to see him come through. I want to see him come true. So yeah, Frozen was my number 2.
So I guess those were the main picks. Shiro was another option as well, but I decided to go Flit because again I want to back up the VP boys again. I want to double down on the whole aspect.
Sure.
I think that Flit is nearly on track to be a superstar, and I think he also has a very reasonable group where they should be able to get through that first stage no problem against Big, and then that second round against Cloud9 I think is doable for him to still put up numbers. The reason why I didn't go Frozen is that I don't think he has as star roles as he did on Mouse, and for that reason, his numbers are going to take a hit. So I see a world where there's still some growing pains for him, and he still has to learn how to integrate into the roster. Has to play he has to play more Twist roles, and Twist didn't have the best roles on this roster.
Sure.
So that's why I went with Flip, because I think that numbers wise, he'll impress. And I actually gave him the captain as well. So
okay. So I gave it to Zailu.
Yeah, I am giving him a big risk. But the reason why I went to Platinum is you get like a higher multiplier or something like that.
Yes, you do. Yeah, the 1.6, like something like 1.6, some of the 2 times kind of thing. Yeah,
right. So I just said screw it. I'll go with VP here instead of FaZe. But that's my Platinum. Okay. I guess I'll continue and I'll move on to the Gold. I picked Twist here. I think that as far as Liquid goes, if there was any player that would have to get consistently high numbers, it's gonna be Twist.
Yeah.
He's got completely different roles on this Liquid roster. He is in more star roles, and they said that before he joined the team, but actually watching him, it is so much fun to watch Twist. So if Liquid performs, Twist will also perform. And I'm talking very similar roles to that of Elige on Complexity, like almost pound for pound, same thing. So you've seen the kind of numbers that Elige has been able to get on Complexity. If Twist does it on Liquid, I think you're obviously guaranteed some high numbers there. So that's why I went with Twist. But you can definitely talk me through your pick here.
Well, we get keep it short and sweet. I also went Twist as well. I locked in with Twists. I just really think he can put up a strong performance here. I think a big kind of factor into a lot of my points was looking at their group, and I just think their group's so easy. You know, opening game against Spirit, I think it's such a good opportunity for Twists to farm. And I think he actually really can put up some solid numbers. I think, in every single way, you should outclass this team. So for me, without doubt, Twist. Going into number 4. So I will admit, so number 4 is the one I've just changed. And there's a reason behind the change. I realized I wasn't sure whether it was the best way to go about it. So I had 2 IGLs, right? And I don't really know. The big thing, I don't know how the point scoring works in Blast. I don't know whether it's just, is it a stats game? Either, yeah. Is it how many they win? And that's where my 4th has changed. And I'm actually going to talk through it now rather than locking it in, because I wasn't sure if you knew. I don't know how it works in terms of, is it just raw stats? Because if it's raw stats, then you just want to go just,
It's so bizarre because it says every match your players will earn points based on their performance. And that, to me, just screams individually.
Yeah, so that's where... So originally, I had Apex here, right? Because I was like, well, Apex, this team is the best team in the world. He's the best IGL in the world. They should win all their games, no problems. But, however, will Apex put up stats? I don't know. And then if it's stats-based, it feels kind of a weird decision. So then part of me was thinking, do I then go for Cadian? Someone who can actually put up stats as well. Is very clutch. He can step up in a big way. I think his Liquid team can do really well. Or if it is raw stats, do I just go for someone like Boros, right? Boros should be able to put up a lot of, elite level numbers in this Falcons team. I think fundamentally he becomes the outlet of power for Falcons. So it feels like if Falcons are going to play well, which they should play well, a lot of it comes with the back of Falcons. But it kind of goes against my picks of saying I don't think Falcons will make it through, but does it really matter? Who knows? And then the rest of the team, I was thinking maybe someone like Immer as well, someone who can also put up numbers as well. So this is where I don't understand how this fantasy works. Because is it based on performances? Is it based on raw frags? Because then it feels like if it is, then I have basically a choice between, in my mind, Immer or Boros.
So I'm going to go purely based off of stats. And even off of the stats, I still don't completely believe in Emma. I think that's a risk. And I think the Boros thing is also very interesting because I think he has a little bit of overlap with somebody like a Madden.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to see how they figure that out. And again, you said it when we were talking about the pick'ems, but we haven't seen Boros play in like a year, right? We haven't seen him play in a long ass time.
Exactly.
And so that's why I feel I don't trust that. I do trust Cadian though, and that's what I'm gonna go with Cadian.
That's who I clicked in when I changed.
Yeah, and I think even if he's an IGL, even if they're not gonna value the IGL aspect of the performance, which we don't know, we'll find out in the next episode. But until then, I still think he can put up numbers, good enough numbers that he deserves being that silver player for me.
Yeah, and absolutely. So I went as well. When I changed that, I was like, right, well, if it's on numbers, I wouldn't really put Apex to get the numbers here. I don't think Apex is bad in terms of numbers. I think he actually still does put up some decent performances, but I think realistically, especially in games where Vitality farm, he's not even going to get a sniff of action, is he? Right? He's going to be Zaiwu, and Flames cleaning house before he even gets to see any bit of contact. And then even then, like Spinks will come in and farm basically, and even if he wants to, Mezzi can step up as well. I don't think Apex is going to get too much of an opportunity in the games which they'll farm, and they should farm all of them. So actually, I think when you look at the Liquid group, it's a little bit more competitive. My first, the change that I made midway through was, well, actually, their opening games against Spirit, I said Twist to do well. I think Cadian should also do well as well because, well, yeah, he's got Shiro on the other side, but it's Shiro without a structure. He should pick him apart with ease. You out-call him, and he should out-AWP him as well. So in that sense, I think it'll be fine. So I also locked in Cadian as my last one. And then my fifth pick is the one that I stuck by because I had to go with it, the Boom. I went with Big Boomich. I think I said Cloud9 will win the group. I said Boomich is wacky. While it doesn't always work for him, I'm going to stick by it. I think I was worried when I looked at the rest of the players within this. Kind of the top three were all Spirit players. I'm not backing any of those, even though, God knows what Baz can bring to the table. Maybe he's a prodigy, but, not backing them. Yeah, I know. That'd be so funny. I'm not backing the Game Legion guys because I don't think they even make it through the group. Snappy was a thought. It definitely was a thought for a while. OG, I don't think any of them will make it through the groups. Doesn't really matter. NIP, I don't think it make it through the group. Complexity, I don't think make it through the group. So then you've got the likes of do I go for like a Nexa or Hooksy? Well, Hooksy, if it's stats-based, terrible decision. Nexa, if it's stats-based, terrible decision because neither of them get stats. So then that worries me. And then it leaves you with Process or Alexi B. Process, again, if I'm right in saying he calls or he's been secondary calling for a while and the whole thing is that he's going to be primary, I think. Is that if I'm right in saying?
I think it might have been Sin.
Oh, no, it's Sin. Sorry, it's Sin. Yeah, no, Process is the hard entry. Yeah, Process uses he's one who he's whacking out the Krieg every now and again. However,
right, so it's either he gets max stats or no stats.
No stats, exactly. Yeah. And then it's Alexi B who doesn't get stats. Even when they win, he doesn't get stats. He's not a fragger. So I thought if anybody's gonna pull off maybe actually the odd kind of like 25 pluser, Boomich actually feels like one of the slightly more secure ones, especially if Cloud9 do well, and because their groups, it's not easy, but I don't think it's that hard. I think Heroic should be okay. Even if they were to drop into a lower bracket, they'd probably face off against Big, and I think they should beat them. So it's one of the harder groups, or at least more even groups, but I think actually Boomich can put up some numbers. So Boomich was my lock in here.
I went with the same thought process as you, as I wanted to pick an IGL here that has that potential pop-off performance. And I think you're exactly right. Alexi B is not going to win you the game. He's not going to have some... The fact that he has a crazy game, that'd be like top of Reddit. It'd be crazy because it just doesn't happen often. And Hooksy, terrible idea. Just not a good individual.
He's gonna lose points. Yeah.
I think Snappy is not a bad shout, but again, Falcons is a huge risk to run because you just don't know what that Falcons roster is gonna be, and we're all just going off of pure inferencing. And so then it really did come down to, for me, Boomich and JT. The reason why I picked JT instead is I just think that he has the potential to clutch up here and there, and if he does pop off, it's not that uncommon. It's happened a couple of times when Complexity performs well, and they'll hang around in the tournament because even if they don't make it out in second in the group, even if they're third in the group, they'll still be in the play-in stage, so they'll have quite a few games to play, and that's why I picked JT as my fifth player because, sure, I mean, he's not none of these players are statistically the best, but there is a chance, and I just think the highest chance I'd give to JT. So I guess we have quite a different, but in a lot of ways very similar fantasy team as well. But this will be a razor tight finish to see.
We agreed on two, Twist and Cadian is where we agreed, and then the changes come through. And obviously the captain changes as well. You went for Ops, I went with Zaiwu. Basically the two best players in the world right now. So, or arguably, I think form-wise, two best players in the world right now. So should be interesting coming through. It makes me think, actually, where was Nico? What was he group? What group was Nico in?
I'd have to assume he's in Diamond, isn't he? Yeah, he's in Diamond.
Did I miss him? Oh, sorry. Yeah. He's with Zaiwu, isn't he? Yeah, with Manesi. That's why. 'Cause I didn't. It wasn't even like a thought process for me. It was like instantaneously. I do find it funny that Naf's there though. You know, bless him.
Yeah,
Kind of wild.
Especially on this team. I don't really think he's gonna get the numbers.
Kind of wild that they put him over Twist, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't even see Nico because I saw Zywie was like an insta pick for me. But that more or less confirms things. So the way things will work now, the league's made. We're both in it. We're joined. And essentially, the next time you see the results will be the next video, which is whatever the next S tier event is, which will be the RMR. Katowice. I'm lying. Yeah. Yep. Kato. So the start of the Kato video, we'll come back. We'll reconvene for our little intro. Then we'll go do our solo pieces. Then we'll come back and we'll start off this segment with the results of the previous one. And of course, obviously the results, therefore also meaning the punishment as well. So that's the place, the time and place to come. But for now, we can say goodbye. Thank you for joining us. Of course, please do let us know your teams and all the rest. I want to see what you guys are going with. Who you think's going to kind of go through the groups? Who you think's your kind of your fantasy team as well, and why you've gone for the pick of those. We'd love to hear kind of what you're going for. But thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure. This is going to be going on all year. There will be a leaderboard updated every now and again. So stick around. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a fun one. And there'll be a big punishment at the end. But like we said, we've got a couple of ideas, some pretty good ones. But if you have any decent ideas for smaller or bigger punishments, also let us know, because why not? It'd be funny. Either way, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you all soon, and, well, take care.